how to define what awakening is. I have like the most broad definition, which is a bit unhelpful. This tends to be my style, to just be like really, really super broad. But really, one of my definitions of awakening is just the process of things coming into awareness, just like starting, almost like the dictionary definition of starting to feel and understand new things. And then within that, you can get different, like different parts of experience being awakened. So a really nice part is awakening to the subtle body. Is just like an experience that, yeah, me in my early 20s would have just been like, what? And now it's like easily one of the loudest things in my experience. And that kind of like opens up a load of richness and beauty and sensitivity and emotionality and depth and ways of relating to experience. So it's kind of like these different parts of experience that can be, awakened, and that can be almost infinite things. And yeah, is there anything else you wanted to ask around that, or?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is really interesting, and I'll give you some of my thoughts about what we call awakening and how like I'm thinking about it. So it seems to me, in making the definition more inclusive, like this definition is like a very inclusive definition. We risk potentially diluting what awakening means in like the spiritual sense. Because at some point, awakening can mean almost anything or like nothing at all. And then the flip side of that, right, is in making the definition more exclusive, we risk restricting or overly limiting what awakening means. And it's just like, well, this is what awakening is. And if you don't have these exact parameters, well, then you're not, that's not awakening. And it kind of like one thing that comes up, and I think I've heard people talk about this before, is this notion of being woke, right? Being woke is like being aware of social injustice. It's like coming into awareness of like the social injustice and the oppression that exists. Whereas spiritual awakening to me is kind of different in the sense of, which to me, it's kind of like seeing through the sense of a solid separate self, or this mind identification. And maybe that's more of like a traditional sense. So yeah, maybe you could comment on more on this, like it being too inclusive or too exclusive, and like maybe like riding through that spectrum.
Yeah, I love that. Yes, I think it's almost like it almost feels like it's my job to be inclusive. And then, so one of the things I'm doing is making an awakening course. And the form is still sort of in process. But it's kind of like, it's defined sort of 16 aspects of experience that are very key. So subtle body is one of them. Shadow work is another one. And it's almost like these different parts that are, key in a sort of holistic awakening. And then part of the course is, I guess I've created this kind of overview and inclusivity vibe, but I'm also collaborating with other teachers. There's 10 of us who are teaching different aspects of it. And then almost saying like, each of these definitions, ways of holding is important. And there's a way that if you stay in the inclusive, open, everything's equal and it's all awakening and blah, blah, blah space, that's really unproductive. So you want to be able to like narrow down and go down a rabbit hole and really get the essence of the thing. So like, I guess my equivalent was like going really far down shadow work, like getting really excited about the Vipassana, kind of like they're almost like different realms and different skills that you're building, and like really going far into that. And then that can lead you to the others, or you can become an expert or a specialist in a specific one. But it's almost then having the wisdom to hold that in the ecosystem and see that these different aspects have different features that will sort of, lead to different outcomes and impacts in the world. And that there's sort of like no one single way to do it.
Yeah, I love that you're like representing that and just like this is just one way of looking at it. And it's like Rose is like playing the role of making awakening more inclusive, whereas
Mhm.
somebody else is like being very sharp and like this is kind of the path and like this is the model. So I really appreciate that. And it's like even hearing you talk right now, because I've been listening a lot to a lot of Rob Rebea stuff, but there is this flavor of, Rob talks about like developing different skills. And it's like he would even talk about soul making as being like a very advanced practice.
Mhm.
But then he would be like, well, for some people, they might actually start in soul making and then like kind of it's not necessarily a linear thing. And there's so many ways to develop that the human consciousness and all these capacities can be developed. So there's not necessarily like you start with meta or you start with the energy body or you start with concentration or you start with insight and emptiness. Like there's no one right way. And I think that's a lot of what you say. Like there's all these aspects and you can start in different, and I think you even have a quiz on your
Yeah.
site, which is pretty cool. It's like where's a good place for you to start and land with your journey.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.